Power is not taken. It is built brick by brick, decision by decision, lie by necessary lie. The world does not bend to the man who dreams of changing. It bends to the man who treats himself as a state under siege. You wish to reshape yourself in 6 months? Then you must first declare war on what you have been. For what you call self is not identity. It is governance, a fragile kingdom made of habits, fears, excuses, and the treaties you've signed with comfort. To reshape yourself means to depose a ruler who has grown soft, and you are both the ruler and the rebel. Every reform begins with treason. The first truth you must learn is that the authentic self is a myth told to the weak to keep them sincere and predictable. The strong wear masks not to deceive others, but to command themselves. Every mask is a fortress, an image built to endure the storms of perception. When you change your mask, you change your reality. Authenticity is a luxury of the powerless. Power requires artifice. You must learn to sculpt yourself as a ruler sculpts propaganda carefully, deliberately, without guilt. 6 months is enough if you understand that this is not self-improvement, but statecraft. Begin where the weak never dare. Dismantle your own kingdom. Audit every habit, every ritual, every indulgence that weakens your grip on yourself. Comfort is treason. Routine is corruption. Sentimentality is propaganda for your inner enemy. Every time you tell yourself, "This is who I am," you renew the laws of your old regime. Tear them down. Rewrite your constitution. 6 months is an eternity in the hands of a man who has chosen to govern himself with discipline instead of democracy. You are not a collective of impulses. You are a sovereign state, and sovereignty begins where excuses end. You will discover that fear, not love, is the true architect of transformation. Love comforts, fear commands. A ruler who loves his people too much becomes their prisoner, just as a man who loves his comfort becomes a slave to it. Let fear be your instrument. Fear of mediocrity, fear of dying before becoming formidable, fear of being forgotten. But do not let fear become your ruler. The secret is to harness it, not to bow before it. The man who conquers fear becomes untouchable because he learns to use terror, his own and others, as motivation. When you wake up trembling, understand that your fear is the only honest counselor you have. Discipline is not a virtue. It is control, and control is political. You are not building a better life. You are stabilizing a regime. Every time you delay gratification, you are collecting taxes from your impulses. Every time you say no, you strengthen your army. Every indulgence is an uprising. Every weakness, a foreign invasion. To reshape yourself, you must become the general of your own psychology. 6 months of internal warfare, that is the price of sovereignty. Those who cannot rule themselves are ruled by their emotions, and the world preys on emotional men. Solitude will be your training ground. The weak call it loneliness, the strong call it exile. Withdraw from the noise, from the endless chatter of the marketplace, from the theater of validation. The court of public opinion is more treacherous than any battlefield. It rewards weakness disguised as virtue and punishes conviction disguised as arrogance. You must disappear long enough to hear your own orders. In exile, the true strategist emerges. You will learn to watch without reacting, to plan without announcing, to endure misunderstanding as armor. The man who needs to be seen is already conquered. Let absence become your weapon. Power grows in silence. When you return, return not as the same man. Let the 4th month be your reconstruction. The old self is dead now. You must build the myth. Power does not exist without perception. The image precedes the man. People follow what they believe you to be, not what you are. Do not fight this law, wield it. Control perception, and you control outcomes. Every gesture, every pause, every silence, all must be deliberate. You are no longer a person reacting to life. You are an image commanding it. Confidence is not feeling sure of yourself. It is knowing others are unsure of you. To reshape yourself, you must master ambiguity. Let them wonder. Unreadability is the modern crown. In the 5th month, you will re-enter the social theater. Every human connection is a negotiation between power and dependence. Loyalty is never moral, it is strategic. It exists only while it serves both sides. The sentimental fool calls betrayal evil, the realist calls it evolution. You must learn to betray what no longer aligns with your sovereignty ideas, friends, versions of yourself. Not with cruelty, but with clarity. Every transformation requires casualties, and the first to fall must be the illusions that kept you weak. You owe loyalty only to necessity. Every alliance must be audited like a contract. Love, friendship, even family, all must be measured against the balance of power within you. If they feed your growth, keep them. If they drain your command, release them. A ruler must be feared enough by his emotions to stay rational in his decisions. By the 6th month, the war will quiet. You will notice that your desires have become disciplined, your emotions structured, your thoughts precise. You will have become something colder, perhaps less human, but infinitely more effective. The price of mastery is detachment. To lead yourself, you must sometimes stop feeling for yourself. Compassion weakens command when it becomes self-pity. The new self you build is not built to be happy, it is built to be powerful, and power, when properly understood, is peace. The world outside may still be chaotic, but within your borders, order will reign. You will no longer need to announce your transformation. The world will sense it in your demeanor, in the way silence bends around you, in the way your words carry finality. You will have learned that power is not energy, but stillness. True strength is invisible, the ability to remain unmoved while others react. You will become the strategist, the one who plans 6 moves ahead while others drown in emotion. You will have learned the most dangerous art of all, the art of restraint. Every empire falls from within, but the man who learns to rule his inner state becomes ungovernable. In 6 months, you will not have changed. You will have been replaced. The weak king within you will have been executed by necessity. In his place stands the ruler of your own fate, precise, cold, self-contained. You will not chase approval, you will command it. You will not seek peace, you will enforce it. The old you sought to be understood, the new you will seek to be respected. Understand this, power is not the opposite of morality. It is morality stripped of illusion. You will no longer waste time debating whether you are good or bad. You will concern yourself only with whether you are effective. Do not speak of balance. Balance is the word the weak use to justify inconsistency. The strong build order from extremes, periods of absolute focus followed by silence, moments of ruthless action followed by deliberate stillness. Every empire breathes in conquest and exhales in diplomacy. You must learn to do both with yourself. The 6-month transformation is not linear. It is cyclical strategy, execution, reflection, and renewal. Each phase will test your resolve. But if you endure, you will become something others cannot manipulate, a man who has nothing left to prove. Understand that the purpose of this metamorphosis is not dominance over others, though that may come as a byproduct, but mastery over self. The world is governed by those who have conquered their inner chaos. Nations fall, reputations crumble, fortunes vanish, but the man who governs himself remains unshaken. The modern battlefield is not land or sea or politics. It is attention, and the man who can direct his focus at will holds more power than kings. In 6 months, make your mind a disciplined army. Each thought must obey command. Each emotion must report to reason. Every desire must pass through the council of consequence. Let them mock you. Let them call you cold. The wolf is never loved by the sheep it protects itself from, yet the wolf survives the winter while sentiment dies in the snow. To reshape yourself is to accept that you will be misunderstood, perhaps even feared. But fear is respect's shadow. The day you no longer need to explain yourself is the day you become untouchable. You will have learned that to influence the world, you must first influence perception, and to influence perception, you must first master silence. Speak only when your words alter reality. When this 6-month war ends, you will stand before your reflection and see a ruler, not a survivor. The eyes that once pleaded for mercy will now command direction. The posture that once bent under guilt will now move with calm authority. You will not be chasing destiny, you will have become it. For to reshape yourself is not to evolve, it is to seize authorship of your myth. The weak wait to be chosen, the strong select themselves. Remember this final law: power is not granted, it is taken by those who no longer need permission. 6 months is all it takes for a man to either rise or vanish. Most will vanish consumed by distraction, comfort, and opinion. But a few will rise silent, disciplined, unreadable, until one day the world begins to orbit their certainty. Be one of them. Do not speak of becoming, command it. There will come a point in this transformation where silence becomes unbearable, not because you fear it, but because you finally understand what it reveals. Silence unmasks the truth about who commands your inner kingdom. It shows you which voices still whisper rebellion inside you, the voices of weakness, nostalgia, indulgence, and fear. These are the remnants of your old government, ministers of self-doubt trying to reclaim their throne. You must treat them as enemies of the state. Listen to them only to identify their tactics, never to obey. For every thought that weakens your will is not a mere idea, it is espionage. The art of reshaping yourself lies in learning to execute treasonous thoughts without hesitation. Mercy to weakness is cruelty to power. When the mind begins to resist discipline, understand, it is not you who suffers. It is the old ruler gasping for air before his final dethronement. Let him die. Once you accept that power is not an external acquisition, but an internal equilibrium, everything changes. You stop trying to control people, and you begin to control circumstances through composure. Power is not dominance. It is the absence of internal reaction. The one who remains calm in crisis controls the tempo of every negotiation, every relationship, every confrontation. The more chaotic the world becomes, the more valuable is the man who does not flinch. And this calm is not born of faith, it is engineered. It is the result of calculated exposure to pressure, until pressure no longer bends you. The 6th month is not about adding strength, it is about eliminating fragility. Your armor is not metal but detachment. In solitude, you learn that noise is not merely external, it echoes within. You will have to dismantle the theater of your own mind, the constant rehearsals for conversations, the fantasies of recognition, the invisible audiences you perform for. These are not thoughts, they are propaganda campaigns run by your insecurities. When you stop performing, you regain your resources. All the energy wasted on appearing confident will become genuine power. When you no longer need to project control, you possess it. The true transformation occurs not when you look different to others, but when your silence becomes heavier than their noise. You will begin to sense the patterns of manipulation that govern human interaction. You will see that most people do not want truth. They want reassurance. They do not seek clarity, they seek comfort. To reshape yourself, you must stop expecting honesty from a world built on performance. Understand appearances as currency. The one who can project certainty, not necessarily possess it, will always rule over the uncertain. But your certainty must be earned, not feigned. Pretending is cheap. Precision is costly. Every word, every gesture must be weighed against the effect it produces. The powerful man speaks less not because he is timid, but because he knows that each unnecessary word dilutes his command. The temptation to announce your progress will arise, and that is the moment you must resist. Transformation that demands recognition is still insecurity, disguised as growth. Real evolution is quiet. The lion does not declare he is king. His presence ends the argument. You will find that the more disciplined your inner structure becomes, the less you crave validation. You no longer need the applause of the crowd. You become the stage upon which the world performs its admiration. In 6 months, your silence will speak a language others will strain to interpret. That is influence, not the noise of assertion, but the gravity of composure. As you refine your image, remember that charisma is not loudness. It is precision of energy. To command attention, you do not expand, you contract. The sharpest blade does not announce its edge, it simply cuts. When you enter a room, bring stillness with you, the kind that bends conversation toward you without a single word. Power does not chase, it attracts through inevitability. Those who are drawn to your calm will serve your purpose. Those who resent it will reveal themselves as opponents. You owe both the same thing, nothing. Indifference is not cruelty. It is the acknowledgement that not all lives deserve participation in your direction. To reshape yourself is to curate your energy with surgical care. You will notice that your emotions will attempt to bargain for relevance. They will disguise themselves as intuition, compassion, moral clarity, but beneath their rhetoric lies the ancient hunger for weakness. Emotions are essential, but they are instruments, not sovereigns. A ruler must feel in order to understand the governed, but he must never feel in order to decide. You will learn to use emotion as an intelligence source, to read others, to predict reactions, to sculpt outcomes, but never as justification for surrender. Passion is a weapon, not a refuge. The man who feels without governing what he feels will be ruled by those who understand how to trigger him. The greatest manipulation is emotional. Learn to recognize it, and you become immune. As weeks pass, you will feel a certain detachment from people you once admired. Do not mistake this for arrogance. It is clarity. Once you begin to perceive how most human behavior is driven by fear, envy, and desire for validation, your compassion evolves into distance. You no longer hate, you understand, and understanding dissolves sentiment. You will not waste time trying to fix what depends on weakness for existence. Let the world remain imperfect. Your duty is not to heal it, but to navigate it with precision. The moralist seeks redemption, the strategist seeks mastery. Choose mastery. The world forgives those who succeed more readily than those who are right. There will be nights when the weight of this transformation feels unbearable, when solitude feels like exile, and detachment feels like emptiness. Endure. You are not losing your humanity, you are refining it. The common man confuses attachment with meaning, noise with life, chaos with passion. You will come to understand that serenity is not dullness, it is the highest form of control. Stillness is the proof of dominion. The man who has mastered his inner climate no longer fears the storms of circumstance. He walks through betrayal, through failure, through rejection with the same steady breath. He knows that history is written not by the loud, but by the enduring. As the 6th month concludes, your transformation will not explode. It will settle. There will be no dramatic announcement, no applause. Only a calm recognition that you have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. You will have stopped living reactively. You will no longer chase motivation. You will issue orders to it. You will no longer seek meaning. You will assign it. And in this sovereignty, a strange peace will arise, not joy, but composure, the quiet of a man who has finally become his own authority. You will look at the world and see through its illusions, its promises of freedom, its worship of vulnerability, its obsession with self-expression, and you will know that most of it is theater for those too afraid to lead themselves. Reshaping yourself in 6 months is not about creating a better life. It is about constructing a mind capable of surviving reality. It is not about hope. It is about structure. It is not about finding yourself. It is about inventing a self that serves the mission. Everything else is noise. Power does not belong to those who wish. It belongs to those who plan. The plan is simple. Observe, withdraw, discipline, re-emerge, command. And when you command, do so without anger, without haste, without apology. Because the ruler of the self needs neither forgiveness nor permission. He simply acts, and the world adjusts. When you reach this point, something irreversible happens. The noise that once seduced you becomes transparent. You begin to see how easily people surrender their minds for the illusion of belonging, how desperately they trade autonomy for approval. The moment you no longer crave their applause, you become untouchable. For 6 months you have waged war not against others, but against dependency itself. And now, standing amidst the ruins of your old identity, you begin to feel what true freedom tastes like: bitter, precise, unromantic. It is not joy, it is lucidity, and lucidity has a cost. You can no longer lie to yourself about who you are or what the world is. This is where most retreat. They reach the gate of clarity and run back to comfort, because the truth demands governance. To know the machinery of life and still move through it without despair, that is the art. The masses want to be good. The sovereign must be effective. You do not seek purity anymore. You seek control over consequence. Every choice becomes a calculation, every reaction a deliberate act of power conservation. You will no longer measure decisions by how they make you feel, but by how they reinforce your structure. This is the highest form of morality, the morality of survival. The sentimental call it coldness, but it is simply intelligence, freed from illusion. You will begin to understand that success itself is a form of warfare disguised as order. Every empire is a reflection of someone's capacity to impose will upon chaos, to replace randomness with pattern. You are not chasing dreams anymore. You are enforcing architecture. You think strategically, not romantically. Every habit becomes a law, every day a campaign. You wake not because you are inspired, but because the machinery must move. Emotion fuels the weak, structure fuels the strong. When others speak of passion, you will see addiction. When they speak of destiny, you will see habit. And when they speak of peace, you will see resignation. As your transformation stabilizes, you must resist the arrogance of power. The man who conquers himself may begin to see the world as a chessboard, but the wise ruler never forgets that the pieces have minds of their own. Control does not mean domination, it means foresight. You must anticipate human nature the way a general anticipates weather, not with hope, but with preparation. People will betray, envy, flatter, and fear. This is not cynicism, it is realism. If you expect loyalty without leverage, you will suffer. The only loyalty that endures is the one built upon mutual interest or shared ambition. In politics, in business, in love, all else is sentiment. When you master this, you no longer chase relationships, you curate them. You understand that alliances are temporary vessels that serve the movement of power. Do not mourn their dissolution, analyze their timing. Every betrayal you survive is intelligence gained. Every alliance that expires on your terms is a victory. You are not here to be loved. You are here to be respected by time. And time respects only those who make decisions without flinching. The reshaped man does not negotiate with regret. He edits it. The final months of this transformation will teach you the most important lesson of all. Endurance without emotion is strength, but endurance without direction is decay. Do not become so detached that you lose the art of aim. A ruler without vision becomes a bureaucrat of his own mind, efficient, precise, and lifeless. You must carry a mission, not as fantasy, but as compass. Your mission is not something you chase, it is something you embody. When every action aligns with it, your life becomes strategy made flesh. That is when luck appears to follow you, but it is not luck, it is structure meeting opportunity. You will notice how easily others are thrown off course by emotion. They rise with enthusiasm, collapse with doubt, and call it destiny. You will no longer be moved by such turbulence. Their inconsistency will confirm your power. The crowd lives on reaction. You live on rhythm. 6 months ago, you were one of them chasing purpose in the market of validation. Now you are the market itself, calm, deliberate, unshakable. You do not sell approval, you distribute presence. And the world pays attention to presence because it cannot counterfeit it. By now, you will have mastered a subtle art, the art of calculated invisibility. You will act without broadcasting, influence without claiming credit, retreat without losing ground. You will have learned that the most dangerous power is the one that moves unseen. Every empire falls when its ruler forgets the value of secrecy. Keep your motives layered, your words sparse, your movements unpredictable. Transparency is for those who need sympathy. Mystery is for those who command respect. The less they know of your intent, the more they fear your silence. When you reach the end of this path, you will realize something extraordinary. that reshaping yourself was never about becoming invincible. It was about becoming inevitable. The man who knows his mind, commands his discipline, and accepts the cruelty of necessity becomes a force that cannot be ignored. He does not need to dominate others. His existence reshapes the environment. Opportunities orbit him because he has eliminated the chaos that repels them. This is the true meaning of influence, not to control the world, but to align so perfectly with order that the world adjusts to you. And yet, in this stillness, you must guard against stagnation. Every structure, no matter how powerful, decays when it stops adapting. The moment you feel safe, you begin to rot. The ruler who believes he has conquered his domain forgets that entropy governs all things. So remain vigilant. Reshaping yourself is not a single act. It is a perpetual campaign. The mind must be ruled, then re-ruled, endlessly. Each victory carries within it the seed of complacency. Learn to spot it early. The second you believe you are beyond weakness, weakness reappears disguised as pride. If you continue beyond these 6 months, you will enter a different kind of power, not loud, not theatrical, but elemental. The kind that does not announce yet pervades. You will move slower, think longer, speak less, and accomplish more. You will no longer react to manipulation because you will see it before it happens. You will no longer compete because competition implies insecurity. You will no longer seek revenge because revenge wastes precision. You will no longer chase opportunity because opportunity will recognize its master. In the end, the reshaped man is not a monument, but a system adaptable, disciplined, patient. He walks through betrayal with measured breath, through success with modest calculation. He is feared by the erratic, envied by the impulsive, and respected by those who understand that calmness is not passivity, but power restrained. He will outlast them all because he no longer fights battles unworthy of his attention. And when the world asks him how he changed so completely in 6 months, he will simply smile, for the truth cannot be explained to those who have never gone to war with themselves. The answer is not in books, not in routines, not in affirmation. It is in the silent decision made one morning that he will no longer live like a subject, but like a sovereign. From that moment forward, every thought, every choice, every hour became an act of statecraft. And through the discipline of sovereignty, the man became a kingdom. Imagine the man who once sought comfort above all things, who woke each morning to the noise of other people's opinions, who fed on distraction like a starving animal. That man no longer exists. In his place stands someone who understands that comfort is not safety but sedation. He now treats comfort as a negotiator, treats poison useful in small doses, fatal when indulged. In these 6 months, he has learned to inject discomfort into his daily structure like medicine. He wakes earlier than desire dictates. He confronts every hesitation like a rival. He denies himself the easy pleasures that weaken command, not because pleasure is evil, but because indulgence teaches obedience to impulse. The act of reshaping the self begins when one learns to withhold gratification, not as punishment, but as proof of dominance. The man who can delay pleasure controls both his body and his destiny. He studies the pattern of his weaknesses, the way a general studies enemy maps. Every habit becomes intelligence. If he notices that fatigue makes him careless, he reforms sleep into strategy. If he sees that conversation with certain people weakens his focus, he edits them from his calendar with quiet precision. He no longer complains about distractions. He audits them. He does not declare war on the world. He refines the borders of his attention. The reshaped man is not driven by emotion. He is governed by structure. He constructs his environment the way a ruler builds walls, not to isolate, but to control entry. In time, he begins to test his discipline against the world's resistance. He places himself in negotiations, not for money, but for composure. He attends rooms where power circulates unseen, observing how influence flows like invisible currency. He notes who controls tone, who commands with silence, who wastes energy by proving themselves. Each encounter becomes a field experiment in dominance. He learns that power is not gained by speaking first, but by waiting until silence demands your word. When he does speak, he He speaks in statements, not arguments. Arguments imply the possibility of persuasion. Statements imply sovereignty. Those who disagree reveal their insecurity by explaining. Those who understand simply adjust. The reshaped man also studies failure, not with regret, but with surgical detachment. He views his mistakes as reconnaissance missions that return with valuable data. If he loses money, he learns the cost of haste. If he loses trust, he learns the texture of human deceit. If he is betrayed, he studies the anatomy of manipulation so deeply that no future treachery can surprise him. Every humiliation becomes intelligence. Every wound, an archive. While others pity themselves, he documents himself. His memory becomes a library of strategies, and his patience a weapon of slow revenge, not against people, but against ignorance. As his perception sharpens, he begins to see the hidden economies that rule modern life. Attention, status, narrative currencies, more valuable than gold. He notices how the masses trade their will for digital validation, how even rulers become slaves to applause. He chooses the opposite path. He withdraws from spectacle, learns to cultivate mystery. He posts less, observes more. While others fight to be visible, he becomes strategically invisible. His absence becomes presence. His silence turns into intrigue. People begin to speak of him without him speaking at all. That is the highest form of publicity, to become the rumor of one's own myth. He also learns to wield generosity as a political act. He gives strategically a favor here, a connection there, not to seem kind, but to create debt. The reshaped man knows that gratitude is the softest form of control. A small gesture at the right moment can bind a person longer than any command. When he gives, he observes. When he receives, he measures. Nothing is random, everything is leverage. He treats kindness like currency spent carefully, with interest expected, and yet he remains courteous, because courtesy disarms suspicion. He smiles without warmth, praises without exaggeration, apologizes without submission. His demeanor becomes a weaponized grace. He studies the psychology of influence not to manipulate for cruelty, but to survive in a world where manipulation is constant. He learns how people reveal truth through contradiction, how flattery hides envy, how anger hides fear, how enthusiasm hides ambition. In every conversation, he looks not at words but at timing, not at tone but at motive. He speaks less, listens more, and begins to hear the unspoken, the real language of power. The weak rely on words. The strong read silence. In this new self, his relationship with time transforms completely. He no longer says he doesn't have time. He says it doesn't deserve time. Time becomes his most loyal ally because he treats it as territory, not as currency. He allocates it like a ruler allocates resources to projects that multiply, not to emotions that drain. He begins his days not with reaction but with declaration. His mornings are not rushed, they are rituals of command. He rises before dawn, not for symbolism but for silence, because silence before the world awakens is the truest form of sovereignty. He also learns to weaponize rhythm. Work and rest are no longer opposites, but strategies in sequence. He works until momentum takes over, then withdraws before exhaustion turns strength into sloppiness. He moves like a tactician appearing, acting, vanishing. Those who chase balance burn out. Those who master rhythm endure. In rhythm lies invisibility, for no one can predict a man who alternates between presence and disappearance with precision. His attitude toward emotion evolves into artistry. Anger becomes a resource, sadness becomes depth, joy becomes persuasion. He no longer denies emotion, he disciplines it. He channels anger into action, sadness into focus, passion into clarity. The reshaped man is not emotionless, he is emotionally engineered. When provoked, he does not explode, he observes the provoker. When tempted, he does not resist. He dissects the temptation until it loses power. He treats feelings the way a chemist treats acids, potent, dangerous, useful when contained. And through all this, he begins to realize that control is not domination over others, but over interpretation. The same event that breaks one man becomes the making of another. He learns to reinterpret adversity as advantage. If he is rejected, he sees selection. If he is delayed, he sees refinement. If he is ignored, he sees stealth. His greatest power is cognitive alchemy, the ability to turn every experience into structure. The world stops dictating meaning. He becomes the author of it. Finally, he learns to move among people without being of them. He engages without attachment, advises without expectation, competes without comparison. He no longer seeks victory in proving superiority, but in maintaining internal coherence. He has become the rarest kind of figure in the modern world, self-contained. The crowd cannot buy him because he is already owned by his mission. He is neither loud nor meek, neither saint nor cynic. He is something colder, rarer, and infinitely more enduring, a man who knows himself as an instrument of order amid chaos. And when asked how such transformation was possible in only 6 months, he does not explain. He looks at the questioner with calm indifference, because explanation is wasted on those who still think change is magic. The truth is simple and merciless. He built himself as one builds an empire brick by calculated brick, decision by deliberate decision, illusion by necessary illusion, until what once was fragile became law. And that is how a man reshapes himself, not through motivation, not through prayer, but through the cold, patient governance of the will. Reshaping yourself in 6 months is not a ritual of improvement, but a campaign of reconstruction. It begins with the declaration of intent, a private vow to no longer obey the momentum of who you were. The first command is clarity, to strip away every unnecessary desire until only one remains, the desire to command. In the first month, you learn to dissolve confusion, to define your objective so precisely that it dictates the architecture of your day. There is no transformation without alignment, and no alignment without sacrifice. Every hour becomes an act of allegiance to your future self. The second month is dismantling. You disassemble your habits with the same ruthlessness that a ruler dismantles a corrupt regime. You remove comforts, reshape your routines, and confront every dependency that diluted your authority. This is the most violent stage, for you are not fighting the world but the inertia within your own mind. Everything that resists this purge is the old order pleading for survival. The only mercy you can offer it is silence. The third month is isolation. You learn to vanish from noise, to operate without applause, to act without validation. Withdrawal is not retreat, it is consolidation. Solitude becomes the forge of composure, and composure becomes the measure of power. You stop seeking stimulation, for the mind cannot be ruled if it is constantly entertained. You learn to sit in stillness until stillness becomes your default state. It is in this stillness that new architecture forms, quiet and unshakable. The fourth month is reconstruction. You begin to design the outer structure of the self that reflects the inner command. Everything you allow into your field words, gestures, alliances, routines must serve a single purpose: to strengthen your direction. You communicate less and mean more. You dress, speak, move, and decide as if every action is policy. The new identity is not pretended, it is legislated. You no longer ask who you are, you decree it. The fifth month is governance. You no longer reform, you rule. Emotion becomes a citizen, thought becomes law, and behavior becomes execution. You treat your mind as a government must treat its people with firmness and order. You anticipate rebellion in the form of doubt and counter it with discipline. You monitor distractions as if they were foreign threats, and you establish systems of accountability that prevent regression. Sovereignty begins when excuses are no longer recognized as language. The sixth month is stability. The new structure holds. Action becomes instinct. Restraint becomes ease. You have turned will into nature. There is no strain, no seeking, no proving, only the quiet motion of a system that runs efficiently. You have become the embodiment of control, and control is peace. You do not chase transformation. You have become the standard it measures itself against. In 6 months, the illusion of effort dissolves. What began as war ends as order. The self is no longer a battlefield, but a governed state, silent, focused, enduring. The cycle does not end here, it sustains itself, for the reshaped man no longer needs transformation, he is transformation in motion. From this point onward, every motion becomes deliberate. The reshaped self no longer rushes to prove or justify. It acts as if all decisions have already been weighed against the consequence of eternity. Speech is filtered through necessity. Movement is governed by purpose. There is no spontaneity for its own sake, no reaction for approval, no emotion that escapes unexamined. You have achieved command of tempo, the rhythm of life now bends to you instead of pulling you along. Every action extends from stillness, every silence contains intention. You begin to feel the subtle shift between desire and direction. Desire is chaotic, direction is architectural. The mind you once treated as an arena of impulses becomes an instrument of calculation. What once tempted now merely signals where energy leaks. You no longer crave outcomes, you calculate inevitabilities. Fate itself becomes a material to be molded through precision. Nothing happens to you, everything is permitted through you. The distinction between external and internal dissolves. The world responds to your clarity, like gravity responds to mass. The reshaped man no longer negotiates with the environment, he aligns it. He walks through the same world, but the world behaves differently in his presence. Time slows, words weigh more, eyes linger longer, events unfold with coherence. This is not mysticism, it is governance extended outward. You have built order within, and order radiates. What others call luck is the reflection of structure meeting opportunity. What they call presence is merely the absence of chaos. There is now an ease that cannot be imitated, a calm that cannot be learned by imitation. It comes only from the extinction of inner contradiction. You are no longer divided between what you want and what you are willing to do. You have unified motive and method. The struggle to be consistent ends when identity and discipline become synonymous. You no longer perform strength, you inhabit it. The 6 months were never about time. They were a framework to discipline inevitability. You could not rush this metamorphosis, only design it. The moment you accepted necessity, transformation became automatic. From that acceptance arises the state of quiet authority, the realization that mastery is not an achievement but a condition. The world remains unpredictable, but your reaction does not. Circumstances fluctuate, yet your center does not shift. This is the real meaning of sovereignty, stability amid flux. At this stage, the notion of self-improvement feels primitive. You are not improving, you are refining. Every day becomes maintenance of clarity, not pursuit of it. You calibrate your habits as a ruler calibrates law, not for change, but for preservation of command. The ordinary seek new motivation. You seek optimization. Growth continues, but it no longer feels like effort. It feels like breathing in rhythm with purpose. And from this place of control, something unexpected emerges: serenity. Not the serenity of surrender, but of comprehension. You understand the machinery of action, reaction, rise and decay, and because of that, you are no longer disturbed by any of it. You see ambition and fear as two sides of the same strategy. You see victory and loss as rotations of the same wheel. You see life not as narrative, but as field terrain to be navigated with accuracy. You become expressionless not because you feel nothing, but because nothing surprises you. When 6 months pass, you will not celebrate. You will not seek recognition. There will be no applause, no proof. Only the silent realization that the experiment succeeded. The weak will notice your absence from trivialities, your distance from noise, your refusal to explain. They will sense something in your stillness they cannot name. That is the sign that the transformation is complete when presence itself becomes command. And from then on, reshaping never ends, because mastery is not a final form, it is eternal vigilance. You remain aware that corruption begins in comfort, that complacency is the first symptom of decay. You will continue to sharpen, to reduce, to clarify. You will live not as a seeker of change, but as its embodiment. The 6 months become a code, not a deadline, but a doctrine. The man you forged now governs the man you will continue to become. This is the true purpose of reshaping. to build a system so exact, so disciplined, so internally coherent that it survives every chaos, every betrayal, every season of power and loss. You will walk through the world as a state in motion, silent, strategic, immutable, and while others measure time in years, you will measure it in evolutions of will. Understand that transformation, once achieved, must be guarded as territory. The self is a dominion perpetually threatened by invasion, by sentiment, distraction, and the slow corrosion of complacency. To preserve what has been built, you must govern as a ruler governs a fragile state after conquest, with vigilance, not vanity. Mercy to old habits will invite rebellion. Indulgence will breed decay. The art of self-preservation lies in preemption, to detect disorder before it rises, to extinguish chaos before it gathers form. Those who wait for crises are already conquered by them. You must learn the difference between control and possession. Control demands maintenance, possession breeds arrogance. Many men, upon achieving a semblance of order, mistake stability for immortality. They loosen their discipline, they trust emotion, they mistake loyalty for permanence. It is here that power collapses. Every structure contains within it the seed of its undoing, and that seed is comfort. To remain powerful, you must remain slightly unsatisfied. The tension between what is achieved and what is threatened keeps authority awake. When the mind grows too confident in its dominion, decay begins its slow and silent work. The world respects structure only as long as it perceives strength. The moment you appear settled, the vultures gather. Even in solitude, life conspires to test your vigilance. Chance will tempt you with prosperity to see whether you mistake abundance for invulnerability. Enemies will flatter to test whether you mistake recognition for approval. The wise ruler remains unmoved. Praise and criticism are winds that bend weak branches. The oak bends to neither. You must learn to read both as instruments of measurement, not as messages of worth. In governing yourself, deception must not be seen as sin but as necessity. Every reform requires illusion to gain obedience. Even within the self, reason must sometimes deceive emotion to preserve stability. The intellect tells the heart that its suffering is noble, that endurance is virtue, while in truth, endurance is policy. This internal manipulation is not hypocrisy, it is strategy. The mind that refuses to deceive its own impulses is destined to serve them. To rule is to persuade even the irrational parts of the self to act as if they believed in order. In the sphere of human relations, keep this principle close. Trust is useful, but control is indispensable. No alliance endures without leverage. Gratitude fades, admiration weakens, but dependence sustains loyalty. When you interact, ensure that others find in you something they cannot replace: clarity, certainty, access, or composure. Remove that, and their allegiance evaporates. Do not mistake affection for alliance. People love their convenience more than their leaders. You must become their convenience, then they will protect you as they protect themselves. Do not underestimate the theater of virtue. Appear moral even when necessity compels otherwise. The appearance of virtue buys time, and time is the currency of power. A ruler who is openly ruthless invites coalition. One who cloaks calculation in principle governs unopposed. The same rule applies inwardly. To maintain inner order, treat conscience as theater. Let it perform morality, but let policy guide the script. In this balance lies peace. The world does not reward honesty of impulse. It rewards mastery of consequence. Consider fate as you would the climate, inevitable, but navigable. You cannot command storms, but you can build walls, dig channels, redirect floods. The fool curses the weather, the ruler studies it. To reshape oneself is to cease complaint and begin construction. Fortune will always test your design. Some days it will bless your discipline, others it will drown it. But fortune respects endurance more than brilliance. She bends to those who outlast her moods. The man who continues his plan through both sunlight and tempest becomes to her an equal adversary. Power is preserved not only through strength, but through selective cruelty. Mercy is an instrument to be used, not a virtue to be worshipped. Toward yourself, this means eliminating weakness before it matures into failure. Toward others, it means cutting ties when they threaten your direction without ceremony or regret. The sentimental ruler drowns in his own empathy. Compassion has its place in appearance, in strategy, but never in decision. To feel pity is human, to act from it is fatal. In the art of command, remember that hesitation is costlier than error. A mistaken act can be corrected. Indecision compounds. You will find that most men fall not because they are foolish, but because they delay. They wait for certainty, and certainty never comes. In politics and in life, time is the ultimate predator. If you do not move first, you will be moved upon. Speed in execution must be matched by patience in planning. This is the dual rhythm of power. Rashness destroys, but delay dethrones. You must also learn to live in partial darkness, to act with incomplete knowledge, to decide amid uncertainty. The perfect plan is the refuge of the coward. Fortune favors those who act decisively on fragments. In the absence of clarity, create it through movement. Action reveals information faster than contemplation. In this, leadership differs from philosophy. Thought without risk is indulgence, and virtue without consequence is decoration. As your dominion over the self matures, a new threat emerges, stagnation disguised as serenity. Peace is the most seductive enemy of progress. You will be tempted to preserve rather than advance, to maintain rather than expand. But stability without expansion invites rot. Even the most fortified castle becomes irrelevant when it ceases to project power beyond its walls. The same holds for the self. To preserve strength, one must continually test it. Seek challenges not for glory, but for resistance. It is friction that keeps the blade sharp. Finally, remember that legacy is not built in monuments, but in consistency. The ruler who governs well is forgotten by history because his order leaves no spectacle. Yet this obscurity is victory. Stability is the quiet triumph of mastery. If your transformation leaves no visible trace, it has succeeded. The purpose of reshaping yourself is not to be admired, but to endure. Glory fades, structure survives. The man who governs his own nature becomes immune to the corruption of time. In the end, to reshape yourself is to learn the single principle that governs both men and empires. Order must be renewed or it will be replaced. Renewal demands vigilance, cruelty, and reason bound by restraint. 6 months is merely the first campaign. The war for mastery never ends. You will win it not by hope, not by virtue, but by understanding necessity and by acting upon it before it acts upon you. In the final reckoning, transformation is not a triumph, but a discipline that never loosens its grip. To reshape yourself in 6 months is to awaken a ruler within who can never again live as a subject. You will not return to who you were, because that man obeyed comfort, believed in chance, waited for permission. You now understand that power is not given, and peace is not found, both are engineered. From this point forward, every silence is strategy, every choice is policy, every day is governance. You are the state, the sovereign, the architect of your own stability. The world will continue its theater of confusion, but you will remain unshaken, precise, calm, deliberate. Let them chase fortune, let them beg for destiny. You have built something rarer, command. The 6 months are complete, but the reign has only begun, and in this reign there will be no applause. Only the quiet satisfaction of knowing that you no longer bow to life, because life itself has begun to bow to you.